23-year-old Kaylee Anne Sawyer disappeared after midnight in her neighborhood. At first, authorities thought that her boyfriend of 2 years had something to do with it, but the person who actually took her was someone trusted to protect the community, who used his authoritative position to commit a horrific crime. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing super well. Thank you all so much for being here and for taking the time to listen to today's case. Today, we're going to be talking about 23-year-old Kaylee Anne Sawyer and how she went missing after going for a walk in her own neighborhood. This case is just so heartbreaking, and it's really infuriating because the person who took her life and did this horrific thing was the person who she should have never feared. We're going to talk about who Kaylee was, what happened to her, and how her story continues to make a difference, protecting others in her name. I appreciate you guys so much for being here. This case was just so incredibly difficult. What happened to Kaylee is just so sad, and this case just goes so deep. Like, at first I thought it was just going to be, one thing, and then as I continue digging deeper into this and learn more about what this guy did and just how many more people he harmed after harming Kaylee, it's absolutely horrifying, and my thoughts and prayers and my heart just goes out to Kaylee's family and to everyone that was affected by this. I appreciate you guys so much for giving me this platform to share these very important stories. And before we begin, I do just want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Pair Eyewear, for supporting this channel. And I also want to thank you guys for allowing me to get these opportunities that just really help out the channel. Okay, let me put you guys onto something that has seriously upgraded my everyday look, Pair Eyewear. At Pair Eyewear, they believe that glasses should be as fun and easy to personalize as your clothes. That's why they deliver customizable, stylish glasses that fit every unique style. They are way more affordable than traditional glasses, with base frames starting at just $60 and magnetic top frames starting at $25. So it's like having a whole collection of glasses without paying hundreds of dollars for each pair. It's literally as easy as 1, 2, 3. First step is to pick your base frame. Choose from over 400 top frame styles and then snap them on with magnets for a brand new vibe. You guys, the top frames are so cool. They're my favorite part about the glasses because it's just so unique and different. Look at how thin this is, and this is 3 different style of glasses that I can wear. I have the Larkin pink clear glasses, and they are so cute on their own, and I love how they look and they just fit my face so well. But if I'm not feeling pink, I can just switch out the top frame for any of these colors. If I'm feeling a little bit more orange, I can just snap these on so quickly. They go on without a hassle. I also have this other shade of pink, which is super cute, a little bit more girly, perfect for like Valentine's Day or just for like a girly day out. And then if I feel like I want something a little bit more neutral, kind of going for like the fall vibe, I have this beautiful warm color here, and look at that, you guys. It snaps on so quickly, so easy, and now it looks like I have a brand new set of eyeglasses, but it's literally just the same one, just with a different top frame. I also have the non-polarized black sun top for when I'm outside, and look at that. Now these are sunglasses. They look so cute, perfect for a beach day. Okay, what mood am I in for the rest of the video? I think I'm gonna put these on. Pair has options for everyone, men, women, and kids, plus lens add-ons like blue light protection, light responsive lenses, progressives, and even non-prescription options. Pair is also constantly dropping new collections, almost 3 a month, including collabs with Marvel, Harry Potter, Friends, and even Van Gogh. You can try everything on instantly with their virtual try-on feature, and they even offer free shipping in the US and free in Canada over $100, plus a 30-day return policy if you're not in love. So if you've been wanting to upgrade your glasses game, make sure to click the link in the description box down below or scan the QR code on the screen to get 15% off your first pair. Once again, thank you so much to Pair Eyewear for supporting this channel, and with that, let's jump right into the video. Kaylee Anne Sawyer was born on March 2nd, 1993 to her parents Jamie and Julie at St. Charles Hospital in Bend, Oregon. Her parents recall how snow was still on the hospital's rooftop when Kaylee was born, given how harsh the winter was, and they were just, so excited to have their first little blessing. Her parents did end up separating when she was young, and they eventually got new partners, Chris and Crystal. Kaylee had 4 younger brothers named Zach, Cody, Jaden, and Caleb, so she was the eldest and the only girl of the family. Now, I wasn't really familiar with where she grew up, but when I looked into it, I realized that it just looked so beautiful. Bend is surrounded by incredible scenery with big mountains, with rivers, with lakes and trails, and it's just a very outdoorsy and honestly just stunning place. It's the kind of place that just draws you to go out and connect with nature, and as she grew up, Kaylee loved that. She enjoyed wakeboarding, fishing, hiking, snowboarding, golfing, taking photos, drawing, and poetry, so she did it all. It's clear that she just loved being outdoors. She was super active and became inspired by it to lean into her creative side. She just loved it there. Apart from the beautiful backdrop, Kaylee grew up surrounded by the love of her entire family. They said that she just had like a natural ability to light up any of their gatherings. They say she was honestly like the glue that held everyone together. She was really close to her aunts, to her uncles, to her cousins, grandparents, with her great grandma. I mean, she was close to everybody. Her family recalls how Kaylee's great grandma, Evelyn's apple crisp, was her all time favorite dessert. Overall, she was just adored, especially since she was the only girl of the family. Her loved ones called her KK, a nickname that came from Kaylee's inability to correctly pronounce her name as a toddler, which I thought was just really cute. When she was younger, she grew a particular liking to Dr. Seuss because they shared the same birthday, March 2nd. In particular, she really loved reading the book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. Her grandma, Sharon, would take her to the library to check out tons of books because Kaylee just loved reading and would go through them so quickly. Her auntie Patty gifted her a blue book bag, and she would show up at the library with her book bag. She would show up with her library card, just so excited and ready to choose something new to read. She just really enjoyed it, and her parents saw how that really grew her vocabulary and her intelligence. It was clear that she had a great, bright future ahead of her. She graduated from Mountain View High School, and when she was 23 years old, she was working as a dental assistant at Aubrey Dental and had also recently re-enrolled as a student at Central Oregon Community College. So, she had a lot on her plate. She was balancing both things at once. She was working at this dentist office, she was going to school, she was balancing her family, and it was just a lot. Her mentor at her job, Lisa, said that she was just so incredibly bright and she just had this ability to make everyone cheer up, just like her family said. For example, if the office had like a difficult patient, Kaylee would go into the room and the whole mood would just immediately change for the better. Her big smile and her warm aura just shifted the energy in any room that she walked into. Kaylee grew to really love her job, and she even told Lisa that she wanted to become a dentist one day. Now, when she wasn't working or studying, she was spending time with her boyfriend of 2 years, whom she lived with in an apartment literally right across the street from the community college that she was attending. Her boyfriend's name was Cameron, and her family says that the moment that they began dating, Kaylee was just so incredibly happy and just clearly in love with him. They both loved spending time with each other's families and just hanging around all their friends, and everyone around them knew that they had a really good future together. And some people even speculated that they might have gotten engaged soon. Now, unfortunately, that future could never come to be because sadly, Kaylee would be murdered. On the night of Saturday, July 23rd, 2016, she went out bar hopping for a friend's bachelorette party in downtown Bend. It was actually for Lisa, her mentor at work, who was getting married. So, of course, Kaylee was invited. At first, she told Lisa that she actually wouldn't be able to make it because she was going to be going out of town. But Lisa recalls getting a last-minute text from Kaylee telling her that she was going to make it after all, but that she would be getting there a little bit later. Now, Lisa was so excited that Kaylee would be able to join her and her friends, and this was just going to be like a fun night out. So that night at around 8 p.m., Kaylee arrived at the country bar where the group was already at. She wore this black dress and carried a medium-sized green purse. They all drank, they danced, and they were all having just so much fun just living their life. But once the batch party pretty much called it a night, Kaylee and another friend decided to just keep the fun going. After all, it was a weekend. So they decided to go to another bar. At this new bar, between drinks and dancing and just the vibes of the night, Kaylee did come in contact with the guy and she ended up dancing with him. And a friend of her boyfriend, Cameron, was actually there. And he started texting Cameron being like, hey, your girlfriend's here and she's dancing with another guy. So shortly after getting that text message, Cameron arrived to pick Kaylee up, and on the way home back to their apartment, they argued. She was dancing with another guy and this made Cameron very upset. When they finally returned to their apartment, the argument actually continued in the parking lot. They were sitting inside the car at this point, and Cameron eventually got out of the car and told Kaylee to go back into the apartment once she kind of cooled down. So at around 12:55 in the morning, Cameron went inside their apartment expecting, Kaylee to join him after she had cooled off and kind of calmed down, but she never did. She went for a walk instead, which was something that she often did after disagreements. Everyone even knew that, even Kaylee's family. Her mom says that that was not unusual behavior at all. Going on walks was kind of her thing. So at first, Cameron wasn't alarmed at the fact that she didn't immediately join him back in the apartment. But when time went by and she still wasn't home yet, he began to worry. Even more so when he went out searching for her and looked inside the car, but saw no sign of Kaylee. The last thing that she messaged him was, goodbye, phone off. Now, she did tend to let her phone battery get super low before charging it, so it wasn't super out of the ordinary to try and reach her, but get sent straight to voicemail. After searching nearby streets a little bit more and just trying to see where Kaylee could be, Cameron eventually returned to their apartment, hopeful that she would eventually come back. But by the next morning, Kaylee was still not home. This felt bad. Something was wrong. Cameron reached out to friends asking if maybe they knew where Kaylee was. Maybe she had gone to spend the night with a friend or had just gone to her family's house or something, but no one had heard from her. He then called Kaylee's father, Jamie, who was actually at church with his wife, Crystal. Soon, her whole family would be aware of the fact that Kaylee was missing. Calls went unanswered. Her phone would go either straight to voicemail or sometimes it would ring, so it was all just really weird. Like, where was Kaylee? And above all, she never made it to work at the dental office on Monday. This was the clearest sign that something was extremely wrong. I mean, Kaylee was so incredibly proud of her work, and everyone said that her not showing up was extremely out of character for her. Something just wasn't right. Kaylee's disappearance was reported to police by Cameron, and later her mom, Julie, also called officers to tell them that she had a history of seizures, hoping that that would push them to look for her faster. You know, she had suffered from a seizure when she was younger, so she just wanted to let them know, like, this is a possibility. And Julie said, quote, "I really never believed it was a medical issue. I just said that to the police to take it seriously and not have to wait 48 hours. You know, she didn't want the police to just tell her like, oh, your daughter is 23, like it's fine, she's an adult, she can do whatever she wants. She wanted to make them think that Kaylee might have suffered a medical emergency so that they would take her disappearance more seriously. So Kaylee's family and friends began posting her missing persons flyers in the streets as well as on social media, but no one had a clue as to where she went. There was just no trace of her. Police began searching the area and they were pinging her phone, but they found nothing. The pings that they did follow up on were actually from an old phone that was registered to Kaylee, but a friend was actually using it as a tablet, so that led to nowhere. They eventually looked into her boyfriend Cameron and the man that she had danced with at the bar, but quickly ruled them out. Kaylee's family did strongly question Cameron too. They thought his story didn't really make any sense or just really add up because they couldn't think of another explanation as to what actually happened to Kaylee, and their minds were just honestly racing to the worst possible scenario, which was that Cameron had something to do with her disappearance. So yes, they did question Cameron, but also at the same time, they knew that he was a good guy. You know, he was a good person that really loved Kaylee, and they never could have imagined him harming her. So at this point, they were just lost. They were in between like, okay, could it be Cameron? Could it not be Cameron? Like, no, there's no way he would ever do something like this, but like maybe. It was just really, really intense for the family, and they just, again, felt lost. It just felt like Kaylee had just vanished. Kaylee's work mentor, Lisa, got word of her disappearance and her stomach just immediately dropped. She just had this gut feeling that something was very wrong. Everyone was extremely worried, but they were also still holding on to hope. Hope that Kaylee would be found and would return home safely. Now, despite holding on to hope, her family still felt that they were completely in the dark. That was until 11:52 a.m. on Monday, July 25th, 2016. On that day, a major tip came in from someone who had information about what happened to Kaylee. It was a woman named Isabel, who at the time was a Bend police officer in training, and she walked into the Redmond police station to report information about her husband, 31-year-old Edwin Lara. But before requesting to speak with someone, she actually sat in the waiting room chairs for a while, just thinking. According to the police report, as soon as she began speaking to officers, she just broke down crying uncontrollably. She said that her husband Edwin arrived home in the late hours of Saturday, so technically the very early hours of Sunday, July 24th. Now, her husband Edwin was a Central Oregon Community College campus security officer. Yes, a security officer, and remember, Kaylee lived right next to the college, like she basically lived on campus. So Isabel said that she usually noticed when Edwin would get back home, but that night she didn't. So they went to bed, and a few hours later, they woke up and got ready for the day, which was now Sunday morning. They went to church, and afterwards they stopped at Pizza Hut to get some lunch, and later they made plans to go catch a movie with Edwin's cousin, Vinny. After going to watch Lights Out at their local movie theater, Isabel and Edwin dropped Vinny off at his house around midnight, and then they went home straight to bed. They had a regular day, you know, going to church, going to lunch, going to the movies. It was just like a typical Sunday. They showered together, they had sex before going to bed, but Isabel said that something was off. She said that she noticed something was off about Edwin the entire day because he was quieter than usual and he wasn't really holding her hand or, touching her, so something was just not right. He was never violent towards her or had any anger issues or anything like that, so this behavior was pretty odd. Now, they did have some recent marital issues, so she thought that maybe he was upset about that or just kind of thinking about that. Not long before this night, Edwin actually had an affair with a woman in California where some of his family actually lived. And when Isabel found out about this affair, this obviously caused issues. However, after the affair, they did try to work things out and try to, get some trust back into the relationship. She would even go on ride-alongs with Edwin where she saw that he was mostly alone throughout the day, and he would actually take her to some dirt paths like back roads to show her like, look, I'm not up to anything bad, like I'm just working by myself. Now, with this information, investigators now knew that Edwin had knowledge of hidden roads that the public might not know about or see. Now, back to the affair. Isabel said that they were working things out, but still things were not great. So again, she thought that his odd behavior on Sunday was due to the affair and just him thinking about this. So she tried not to think too much about his behavior until the following day. On Monday morning, Isabel said that she woke up at around 9 o'clock in the morning, and Edwin decided to sleep in a little bit longer until around 10:30 a.m. or so. Once he woke up, Isabel said that he approached her with teary eyes, and she questioned him about what was going on. He was really weird the day before, and now he was crying. Something was clearly up. This is when Edwin broke down and said that he ran someone over in his security car during his patrol shift on Saturday night, and that the person that he ran over was Kaylee, the missing woman whose name was being spread in the media and just all over the news. He said that while he was at work that night patrolling the community college, Kaylee walked out in front of his car and he ended up running her over because it was dark and he just couldn't see her. He claimed that he panicked after that and hit her body, but Isabel told police that he didn't tell her where he hit Kaylee. He then revealed that Kaylee's belongings were in their shed in their backyard, and then he grabbed Isabel's 9mm Glock pistol that was in her purse along with her handcuffs. He then made statements that led Isabel to believe that Edwin was going to end his life. He literally just dropped all of this on her on Monday morning, and it was just a huge shock, and she just froze hearing all of this. Then Edwin began saying, quote, I need to go, and allegedly left their home at around 11:30 in the morning in his 2008 Nissan Altima. Isabel told police that she believed maybe he was headed to Los Angeles because, again, he had family there and thought that he would be going specifically to his grandparents' house down there. But still, she just couldn't understand what was going on. She said nothing made sense to her. Her husband had an associate's degree in criminal justice and was literally training to be a cop. So why would he do this? She went out to look in the shed just to see for herself if this was actually true, and that's when she found a woman's belongings just like Edwin said there would be. She specifically found a bloodied green purse, clothes, and shoes. And that's pretty much everything that Isabel told the police, which was a lot because at this point, there was no lead as to what happened to Kaylee. Again, at this point, everyone felt like they were in the dark and it honestly seemed like Kaylee had just vanished, but now there was a viable tip. Detective Sergeant Eric Beckwith said that they knew right away that Edwin was someone dangerous, saying, quote, when you do those investigations, you try not to make assumptions that it was an accident. But in our minds, we know that's not what reasonable people do. Some people leave the scene of accidents because they're scared, but they return a short time later or something like that. But that's not what Ed did. After speaking to Isabel, the police went to Edwin's house right away, and during the search, they actually found videos of Edwin singing love songs while playing the guitar, and they learned that he was actually part of his church's worship group. On his bedside table, detectives found a very used Bible and learned that he was giving 10% of his income to his church. Now, this will come into play a little bit later, but I mean, just seeing how religious he was and how much time he dedicated to church, and again was even giving 10% of his income to his church, just made police feel even more eerie about the entire situation. Like, this was a guy who went to church, a family guy, and yet his wife is saying that he ran someone over and hid her body. So that's basically all the police found inside the home. But when they searched the backyard, that's where they found what Isabel told them was in their shed. Detectives found a trash bag that contained blonde hair stained with blood. They found Kaylee's shoes, which were high-heeled wedges, and they also found her green purse, which had her passport, her credit cards, her wallet, and her keys on a lanyard inside. They also found Edwin's work uniform hidden inside a spare tire. They found black boots with blood on them, and then they found this sharp grapefruit-sized rock with blood and hair stuck on it. Apart from this, the police also found one of Edwin's old criminal justice class projects. It was a large threefold display about the serial killer Angel Resendiz, also known as the Railroad Killer. Now, he was known as this because he traveled around the country by freight trains and committed these murders near railroad lines. He also would use heavy objects or rocks and things like that often found near his victims to murder them. What was even creepier was that Edwin used red paint to make the project appear bloody. To detectives, this was another glimpse into Edwin's true nature, and kind of a coincidence that Edwin's project sort of mimicked what he did. using a rock to murder someone. All this evidence pointed to Edwin being dangerous, and it was clear to police that what Edwin told Isabel was a lie. He didn't accidentally run Kaylee over at all. He intentionally abducted her for the purpose of essaying her and then murdered her. Detective Sergeant Beckwith said, quote, "We found a significant amount of evidence that disputed the fact that he had hit her with a car." Now the police had to inform Kaylee's family that her case had to be reclassified as a homicide, and the search for the main suspect in her murder had to be located as soon as possible before he could hurt someone else. Detectives did locate Edwin's phone, which pinged at a resort called Eagle Crest, which was about 10 miles west of Redmond, but that didn't really lead detectives to him. They did, however, find his car. Since his stepfather had been arrested before, detectives came across it when investigating Edwin. So now they had his parents' address, which was just actually 5 minutes away from both his own home and the police station. There, detectives found Edwin's Nissan Altima, but no Edwin. Now, when questioned, his family said that yes, he was there earlier and that he asked for money before leaving, but they didn't tell police that he actually took their car. At this point, detectives were beginning to question why Isabel didn't tell the police that Edwin's family literally lived 5 minutes from them and 5 minutes from the police station. Again, she only mentioned like, oh, he might be going to Los Angeles because some of his family lives there, but she never mentioned that his family also lived right there next to them. So investigators just thought that this omission cost them hours during the early stages of the investigation, and that if Isabel had told them earlier, they would have found Edwin's car sooner, which would have led them to what kind of car he took from there to track him down faster. They needed to find him before he went on to commit another crime, and unfortunately, that's exactly what Edwin went on to do. He committed another crime while on the run. Actually, not just one crime, he went on a crime spree. Edwin went on a crime spree that stretched from Northwest Oregon to Northern California. As we know, after leaving his home in his Nissan Altima, he drove to his parents' house and he swapped cars with them. So now he was driving a Subaru Legacy station wagon. Later that same evening, 19-year-old Andrea Elizabeth Mays was finishing a double shift at Ross in Salem, Oregon, just a few hours away from Bend. She walked out of Ross, she made her way to her car, and she took a few minutes to catch up on some things on her phone. She also posted a selfie on Snapchat. Now, she wasn't supposed to be getting off this late, she was just covering someone else's shift. So in her Snapchat selfie, she captioned it, "12-hour shift got me like," and she posted it. So as she sat in her car scrolling on her phone, Edwin appeared at the passenger window. At first, she just thought that this was a coworker playing around trying to scare her, but it wasn't. He was armed and was carrying a large backpack. He quickly unlocked the car through the passenger window. He got inside and demanded that she begin to drive, but Andrea just froze. She was so confused. He kept the gun pointed at her and he had it tucked between the backpack on his lap and his waist. Andrea was still thinking that this was all some kind of joke, so she started laughing. But then Edwin put his gun to her thigh and threatened her to drive or else he'd shoot her, telling her that this wasn't a game. Edwin told her that he needed to go to California. And Andrea later said, quote, "I was hyperventilating. I just started driving. I had no idea where I was going." She thought to herself like, okay, like how do I get him to let me go? So she told him that her car had an oil leak and she tried making it sound more serious than it actually was, but Edwin told her that it was fine, that they just keep putting oil in as they continue to drive. They later even stopped at a McDonald's where Edwin still held Andrea at gunpoint as he ordered food. She remembers thinking just how frustrating and terrifying it was that she was among so many people but that she couldn't ask for help and that no one suspected a thing, that no one around her knew that she was being held hostage. It's truly just a scary situation that we all hope to never be in. At some point during the drive, Edwin made Andrea pull over. He told her that she was driving too fast and he didn't want to get any attention from police, so he handcuffed Andrea and drove the car himself. She recalled that that was the moment that Edwin began talking about his personal life. He even told her that he was married, that he was a cop, and then he casually said that he had just killed a girl. Andrea said, quote, "He was showing me pictures of his wife and he's like, 'Oh, I'm a cop. I don't know if you heard what happened to the girl I just killed.'" He was trying to show her an article about Kaylee, and Andrea says that she just had no idea what was going on at the time and she just remembers thinking like, this guy is on something. He also told her that he had been watching women in the Ross parking lot until he decided to hijack and kidnap her. Andrea said Edwin told her, quote, "He saw a pregnant lady and asked her something and she brushed him off and kept walking. And his comment to me about it was, 'Little does she know what I could have done to her.'" I can't even imagine how scary that must have been, hearing that you were being watched while you got off work and were just scrolling, posting on Snapchat, and then to be handcuffed in your own car, watching an armed stranger drive you miles and miles away from your hometown, then to have him tell you that he just murdered a girl and that he's a cop. Andrea just must have been so scared, and it's just horrible what she went through. After a few hours of driving, Edwin said that he was getting tired, so he pulled into a roadside motel called the Relax Inn, which was in Cottage Grove, Oregon. He told Andrea that they would be getting a room together and threatened that if she tried to ask for help or did anything to try to escape or even made eye contact with the motel clerk, he would either kill them or her. He forced her to pretend like she was his girlfriend and even made her hold his hand so that they didn't look suspicious and draw attention to themselves. But Andrea was crying. She looked so tired and disheveled. She just didn't understand how the motel clerk didn't notice that something wasn't right. She was hoping that someone would notice she was crying or felt uncomfortable and that she felt terrified and they would step in to help her, but that didn't happen. Edwin was then handed the motel room keys, and he and Andrea made their way to the room. Inside, Edwin handcuffed her to the bathroom door while he showered, and then he told her to shower. Andrea refused and told him that she didn't want to shower in front of him and that she didn't even have a change of clothes, and was like, "What do you expect me to change into?" So that's when Edwin then uncuffed her from the bathroom door and then handcuffed her to the bed frame. He then forced her to take some sleeping pills and threatened that if she didn't do this, he would just force her to do it with a syringe. So Andrea had no choice but to take them, and she fought hard to stay awake. She said, quote, "I just kept thinking, if I fall asleep, he will try to. Knowing how disturbing he is, probably still try to take advantage of me. That was my motivation for trying to stay awake." Now, apart from forcing her to take sleeping pills, Edwin also made sexual advances on her, like licking her earlobe. Thankfully, Andrea's cell phone alarm went off at this very moment, and she managed to deter Edwin by telling him that that alarm was a reminder for her to take her STD medication. Andrea said that she was trying to make her STD sound as disgusting as she could, and that ultimately worked because Edwin didn't try to make any further sexual advances after that. Andrea says that she doesn't know why that timer went off or like how that timer even happened, but says that if it wasn't for the timer, things could have gotten way worse. A short time after, Andrea remembered Edwin taking a phone call and speaking Spanish. Now, she did speak Spanish and she was also exhausted at this time, so she only caught fragments of what he was saying. It was one of Edwin's family members on the other line telling him that the cops were after him. This is when Edwin got even more paranoid and began gathering his belongings. He put on a bulletproof vest and he ordered Andrea to get off the bed. Now, she tried to convince him to just let her stay behind, that he didn't need her, but he refused, insisting that she had to come with him. He told her that if something happened, if the police were to stop them, she would be his ticket to safety. That the police wouldn't shoot him if she was in front of him. So they ended up leaving the motel in Andrea's car to continue the drive to California, but during the drive, Edwin realized that the car was overheating and that it wasn't going to get them all the way to Los Angeles. So he said that they needed to get another vehicle, which meant finding someone else to take it from. So at this point, it was now nearly 5 o'clock in the morning on July 26, 2016, when Edwin pulled into another motel. This time, he pulled into a Super 8 motel in Rica, Northern California. He told Andrea that they'd be getting a new car there. As they drove through the motel parking lot, Andrea noticed an elderly man outside his room loading some photography gear into his vehicle. Edwin pointed him out and told her that they were going to take his car. Andrea tried to talk him into letting her keep her own car and just letting her go, but he refused again. Edwin then parked the car, grabbed his gun, and made Andrea walk with him towards the older man, who was later identified as Jack Levy, who was in town to photograph some butterflies, something that he had done many times before. As Jack moved his photography gear between his room and his car, he left his motel door open, and when Jack returned to the room to get more of his gear, Edwin and Andrea stepped into his doorway. Edwin told Jack to not yell and pointed his gun at him. He then said he only wanted the keys to his car and that was it. Jack tried to call for help, and when Edwin threatened to shoot, Jack called out for help again. This time, Edwin pulled the trigger on his gun, shooting Jack in the stomach. Andrea said that she had never heard a gun go off that close before. She remembers the sound, the vibration rattling through her entire body, and just how strange and awful it felt. She could barely process what had just happened, and the next thing that she knew, Edwin grabbed her and ran from the motel toward the gas station station next door, leaving her car behind in the parking lot. Andrea remembers that moment as just a complete blur, the two of them just running without her fully knowing where they were headed to or what was going to happen next. At the gas station, Edwin spotted another car and decided to take it. Inside were 17-year-old Nima Gavimi, his 18-year-old brother, and their 73-year-old grandmother. The family was on their way back to Los Angeles after a trip to Canada, and the rest of their relatives, which were his dad and his grandpa, were inside the gas station using the restroom. Nima remembers seeing Edwin and Andrea, heading towards the car, but, he just assumed that they were just going to rob him. Instead, Edwin actually shoved Andrea into the car, slammed the door shut, and then aimed his gun directly at Nima's head as he ordered him to drive. 17-year-old Nima was in the driver's seat because his dad was getting tired and asked him to drive the rest of the way home. Nima let the family dog out of the car and did what Edwin said, and he began driving. Shortly after, Jack, the photographer who was shot at the hotel, was able to secretly call the police, and at around 5 minutes later, police were called to the gas station as well for the hijacking of Nima's family car. But they were too late. Edwin was gone. As Edwin and his new hostages headed south on I-5, Nima heard screaming from the back seat. It was his grandmother, terrified and speaking in her native language that the rest of them couldn't understand. Edwin snapped at Nima and at his brother and told them, you better quiet your grandma or I'm gonna shoot you guys. Nima said that Edwin sounded so paranoid at this point and that the entire situation was just completely nerve-wracking and just so frightening. He had only just gotten his permit and was trying to focus on the road and trying to focus on driving while also figuring out how to get out of this frightening situation and how to calm his grandmother down. A situation like that at any age is absolutely frightening, but at 17 years old, Nima was just a kid with all of this pressure. One minute he was sitting in the car with his brother and with his grandmother just waiting for his dad and grandpa to come back, and then the next minute a man points a gun at him and tells him to start driving. It was just so scary, and at this point, Edwin was growing more and more paranoid, so he actually grabbed Nima's phone to see if he had called 911. He remembers just wanting to jump out of the car at that point, saying that he would rather jump and die than get shot. Then things somehow got scarier. Edwin then randomly asked them, "Do you guys have an urge? Have you ever had an urge to kill?" And then he went on to tell them how he used to be a good guy, even a cop, but that he had this urge to kill, so he ran over a girl. Nima said that he didn't believe it at first, but then he told him that he kidnapped the girl with him, Andrea, and that he shot a man, Jack, for not handing over his keys. So now things were scarier and his threats felt more real. Nima and his brother tried to reason with him, pleading to let them and their grandmother go. Thankfully, around 15 minutes later, Edwin told them to pull over at a rest stop. He checked to make sure that no one was around, and then he finally let them out. But only Nima and his family. Andrea asked if she could just stay with them, but Edwin refused and reiterated to her that he needed her with him so that he would not get shot by the police. Andrea tried telling him hey, you have a working car now, you have everything that you need, just let me go, you don't need me anymore, but Edwin just didn't care. And as soon as Nima and his family got out of the car, the two were back on the road. At some point during the drive, Edwin actually took Andrea's phone and began recording a video for Facebook. He said his name in the video, that he was a wanted man, and mentioned, quote, "that girl in Central Oregon," aka Kaylee, and apologized for killing her, and said that he regretted it, but said, quote, "she just kept screaming," and that he silenced her forever. Edwin then pointed the camera to Andrea in the video to prove to everyone that she was alive, and told the viewers that he hadn't done anything dirty with her because he wasn't that kind of guy. He then ordered Andrea to post the video on Facebook with the caption, "Murder on the Loose," but she resisted. She told him that she didn't want her friends, her family, her teachers, or just everyone on Facebook to see this and then worry about her. So Edwin threatened her again, and she decided to post it, but then quickly changed the privacy settings so that no one could actually view it besides her.
Hi everybody, I just want to say that I apologize for everything I've done. Most likely I'm going to get caught. And sorry about that girl. In Central Oregon. And I just want to let family members, Andrea, that she's fine and she will be fine, because so far she's been doing what I've been going to do. And if you guys are wondering if I have done dirty things to her, no. Alright, I'm not that kind of guy. I used to kill that other girl, and I regret it. I regret killing her. She just kept screaming, and I had to silence her forever. So, like I say, she's still fine. We're driving, and she'll be home pretty soon. I'm sorry to her grandma and her family members, to her boyfriend. I'm sorry for everything that I caused. Okay, and you'll see her pretty soon. Okay, tell the cops that not to shoot us, because if they shoot us, then that's not my fault. Okay, but sorry everybody. Bye.
After recording the video, Edwin then called his wife Isabel and spoke to her in Spanish. From what Andrea could understand, Isabel was telling him to just turn himself in. They were now 30 miles from Redding, California, and Edwin began speeding well over 100 miles per hour on the highway, again paranoid that he was being followed by a helicopter. But Andrea said that she never saw a helicopter or even saw one, but Edwin was just so paranoid. A highway patrol officer in Red Bluff, California, actually tried pulling him over for how fast he was going, but Edwin refused to stop. At around 6:40 in the morning, Edwin grabbed Andrea's phone and called 911, telling the dispatcher his name, where he was, and that he wanted to surrender. He said that he knew that the police were onto him and that a helicopter was following him as well. He then admitted to killing Kaylee, then admitted to having a gun, and then said that he was wearing a bulletproof vest. He also told the dispatcher that he wasn't alone, that he had a girl with him who he had just kidnapped, and said that she was innocent. Andrea even spoke to the dispatcher and told the dispatcher, yes, I'm not hurt, nothing happened to me. She tried getting Edwin to just pull over, but, he was just so focused on himself, telling the dispatcher that he had asthma and forgot his inhaler, saying, quote, "Just tell them to not be too rough on me. I can't breathe right now." So that's all I wanted to say. I do have a gun on me. I'm not going to flash the gun if you tell them not to shoot me. I don't want to die.
This is Edwin, Lara, and I'm the guy on Interstate 5, going at high speed. I know you guys have the chopper on me already.
Yeah.
And, I just want to say I am going to turn myself in.
Okay, where are you at?
Okay, I'm on I-5, I think close to Redding, if I'm right. So, I am wanted for murder in the state of Oregon.
Okay, you by yourself, or?
No, I have someone with me. I kidnapped her in Oregon. She's innocent. Her name is Andrea. What's your last name?
He doesn't know.
I'll let her give her a lap in so you can call her family, okay?
Okay.
Just give me a second.
What's your name?
Hello?
Yeah, hi, what's your name?
Andrea?
Andrea, what's your last name?
Maes, M-A-E-S.
Okay, are you hurt at all, Andrea?
No.
I want to ask you a favor.
Uh-huh.
So I have asthma.
You have asthma? Okay.
Yeah, so you tell them not to be too rough on me because, I can barely breathe right now. All right, so that's all I wanted to say.
Do you need any kind of medical, or?
Yeah, well, I think so. I'm going to need my inhaler. I forgot my inhaler at home. I went all over Salem, Oregon looking for an inhaler, but I guess they don't sell it, behind the counter or out of counter. So,
Edwin, how fast are you going?
I'm going about 120 miles an hour
about
right now.
120 miles an hour?
Yeah.
Can you slow down?
Well, I want to make it there quick. That way I can turn myself in.
Well, the officer sees you. We just don't want you to speed away from anything. If you can stop and just give yourself in, it'll probably be easier.
Well, there's an officer behind me right now.
Okay, they see you. We're talking to them. They see you.
Yeah, she's seeing me. I think it's a she. She's right behind me.
Okay, the officer sees you, and are you able to safely stop?
Yeah, I can stop, but not right now. I'll stop in Corning.
What's the difference from stopping now in Corning?
I just don't want to stop right here in the middle of the road, putting myself in danger and putting everybody else in danger, more in danger, I guess.
They won't. They're aware. I'll let them know they won't. But if you can stop safely, they just don't want you to run. They think you're trying to run or anything.
Okay.
Edwin, do you have any weapons with you?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I do have a gun on me. I am not going to flash the gun, so you tell them not to shoot me.
Okay.
I don't want to die.
Okay, you stick by your word, though. I'll let them know.
Yeah, I'm going to let them know. Don't hurt Andrea. She's a nice girl. Don't hurt her. I'm actually calling my family just to say bye to them. So once I'm done calling all my family, then I'll turn myself in.
Okay, we can get a hold of your family if you want.
I already called my wife. I called a lot of people already. I am wanted for the death of Kaylee Sawyer at Bend, Oregon.
What's the girl's name? Kaylee what?
Sawyer?
Sawyer?
Yes. Or Swire, maybe.
And she was from Bend, Oregon?
Yes. I just want to say that it was an accident. So I work for campus public safety there, and she was really drunk, and I didn't see her, and I ran her over.
Okay.
And then after that, I just she was still breathing, and then she was screaming, and I decided to silence her forever.
Okay. Girl, that's what you. How old is she? Andrea, how old is she?
How old are you? She's 19.
19 years of age. Okay.
Yeah.
Does she have any weapons or anything, or?
Nah, she doesn't.
She doesn't.
I honestly, I did kidnap her. We drove her car, and her car died on us, so I had to borrow somebody else's car. Basically that's what it is.
Okay.
But yeah, well, basically, or technically, it's illegal to talk on the phone and drive, right?
If you're calling in an emergency, and you know what, this is just a total different circumstance, okay?
Okay.
That's the last thing we need to worry about right now.
Yes.
So,
I know this is being recorded, and I just want to say to the family of Kaylee that I am sorry. I'm sorry for what I did to her, and in time I will tell them where the body is. I will just, that way she can rest in peace.
Do you want to let me know, or just have this recorded where it is?
No, I remember.
Okay.
So, hopefully the police officer doesn't shoot me, and I'll survive,
Yeah. Well,
but
we're not going to let that happen. Like, you just do what you're supposed to do and do what you're told to do.
I left my vehicle with a note, in what is that place called? In Salem, Oregon.
Okay.
Yeah, in the, what's the mall called? The Ross. Yeah, there is a Ross in the Lancaster in Salem.
And what is it called?
What is the address for the mall?
Oh, the mall.
Yeah, it's a Ross. A Ross Mall.
Ross,
R-O-S-S.
Oh, Ross Mall.
Yeah. So, or a store, whatever you want to call it. It's a store. I left a station wagon, that I sold from my parents.
Uh-huh.
Well, I was borrowing it. I told them that I was going to borrow it. And so I drove it all the way to Salem, and I parked it right in front of the mall, and there's a note there just in case, hopefully not, but just in case I die.
What kind
there's
of car
a note
was it? You
there.
said the station wagon?
Yeah, it's a station wagon. It's registered to my stepfather. My stepfather's name is... Yes. And, I'm pretty sure somebody noticed it already.
Okay. So,
And that's where I kidnapped Andrea, too.
Okay.
He works at that Ross store.
Okay. So, Edwin, are you going to stop for the officers?
Yeah, I am. As soon as I'm done talking to you, I'll
Okay.
stop.
I'll stay on the line, Judge. I just want to make sure you stop safely and just think about what you're doing as well.
Okay, I'll let you talk to Andrea.
Okay. Are you going to stop?
Yeah, I'm going to stop.
Okay. Once you stop, make sure they can see your hands at all
Yep.
time, okay?
All right, just tell them I'm going to go into that casino.
You're going to go into the casino?
Yep.
The dispatcher also speaks to Andrea a couple of times, and you can just hear the fear in her voice. Eventually, police officers from the nearby town of Corning joined the highway patrol officers in the chase for Edwin until he finally pulled over, got out of the car, and surrendered without a fight. Camera footage captured an officer asking why he was wearing body armor, to which Edwin replied saying, quote, "I came to throw down." About 30 minutes later, he was processed at the Tehama County Jail in California, and for Andrea, she just felt a huge sense of relief that this was finally over. She finally felt safe after being kidnapped by Edwin until moments later, when she was actually handcuffed and booked into the same jail as him. She was being treated like a criminal, just like Edwin, even though the 911 dispatcher spoke with her as she was being held captive inside Edwin's car. Despite this, police just had no idea that she was his kidnapping victim. At the jail, Andrea was treated as if she were the one who had done something wrong, as if she was the criminal. She was strip searched, she was fingerprinted, she was questioned, and she was photographed. She said that all of that made her feel completely violated after everything that she had just survived. When officers told her that they needed her mugshot, she remembers asking why, telling them that she hadn't done anything wrong, but still, she was being treated like a criminal. Oregon detectives later arrived at the jail, including Detective Sergeant Eric Beckwith, who was determined to sort out who this unidentified woman really was. It had first been suggested to them that she might have been helping Edwin, but it didn't take long for them to realize that she was actually another one of Edwin's victims. At that point, everyone's behavior just changed. Officers were offering her clothes and even their wives' clothes for her to change into and just treating Andrea better. Thankfully, Andrea was released soon after and she reunited with her family the following day. I hate that that had to happen to her on top of everything that she went through. It must have been so infuriating for her because she was trying to tell the police that she was innocent, that she was a victim, that he had, kidnapped her at Ross and she was so many miles away from her home, but no one listened to her. But thankfully, after this terrifying and horrifying nightmare, she was finally back home with her family. It didn't take long for news outlets to report that Edwin was found with the woman in his car. So when Kaylee's mom, Julie, heard that, in her mind, it went to the possibility of like, oh, maybe this is Kaylee. She thought that maybe Edwin had hit her with his car and panicked, and that Edwin was holding her captive, or that she was still hanging on to life. So she was in a way hopeful, thinking, oh my gosh, this unidentified woman could be Kaylee. But sadly, after detectives spoke with Edwin during his 6-hour interrogation, it became clear that Kaylee would not be found alive. Detective Sergeant Beckwith said, quote, "The first thing he said to me was that he didn't need to tell me his name because I already knew who he was." In the interrogation videos, which you can find on YouTube, Edwin is seen smiling and just like leaning back in his chair at first and just kind of acting a little bit relaxed. It was just not the behavior of someone who was remorseful or the behavior of someone who had just gone on this crazy crime spree and was now feeling bad about it and just wanting to confess to everything. He was read his Miranda rights and his consular rights, and detectives got to work right away trying to figure out what happened to Kaylee and where her body was, because that's what mattered most to detectives. Detectives James McLaughlin thought that he could get Edwin to tell them what really happened. He told him that when he searched his home, he saw that he had a used Bible on his nightstand and just saw how active he was in his faith. James was formerly a pastor, so he told Edwin that if he was a holy man, now would be the time to wash his hands and tell them what really happened. Edwin told them, quote, "I want to tell you where the body is, I do, but I want to get home first." To which Detective Sergeant Beckwith said that the only thing that mattered was what he does now, and that Kaylee's family get answers. Edwin then interrupts him and asks for a pen and paper so that he can draw a map showing them exactly where he left Kaylee's body. Then he sketches a rough map. He told them to look for a mailbox with the numbers 18700 along Highway 126 in Oregon and said that Kaylee's body was across the highway from there. Detective Beckwith got on the phone right away with his team in Oregon to inform them about this and for them to immediately head out and search for Kaylee and just confirm that this was actually the truth. In the meantime, Edwin explained what actually happened, what he did to Kaylee. He says that yes, he hit Kaylee with his patrol car because she was wearing all black and he didn't even see her. He claimed that he was in a hurry and said, "I mean, I didn't hit her that hard. I just bumped her with the patrol car. With the front rack. She fell down. At first, I thought I killed her, but I didn't hit her that hard. I got out of the car and she was really drunk. Then she looks at me and she starts to scream." He then went on to say that he just panicked, because she was screaming so much, and he grabbed Kaylee by the throat and told her to shut up until she passed out. He then said that he placed her into his patrol car and then drove to the B12 lot and then panicked even more. He said Kaylee saw his face and knew who he was now, so that made him panic. He opened the car door to where Kaylee was, and he saw that she had regained consciousness. So he grabbed her in a chokehold and kept telling her to shut up. Then he said that he hit her with a rock and then dragged her behind a tree where he hit her with another rock. He also told detectives that he told his wife what he did and that he knew she would turn him in because she loved her job and that he regretted putting her in that situation. He also said that he threw Kaylee's phone into a nearby river because he grabbed it with his bare hands and just knew that his fingerprints would be on it. Now, detectives weren't buying this story. They weren't buying the story of him hitting her with his car and just panicking. He never hit her. Again, he intentionally chose her and brutally murdered her. Detective Beckwith said the problem with what he was telling them was that Edwin knew that he wasn't going to let Kaylee get out of there alive. He knew this the moment that he took her phone and her purse. They asked him why he did this. If you were planning on just letting her go, why would you take her belongings? And Edwin said it was because she was going to use her phone to call 911. Detective Beckwith then told him plainly that if he was already thinking about stopping her from calling for help before anything else had even happened, then the intent to harm her was already there. Then Edwin gave another story, saying actually he never hit Kaylee with his car. He said that he believed Kaylee was a prostitute, which is why he approached her that night. But the moment he realized Kaylee wasn't a prostitute, he decided to take her phone and just not let her out of the car. He knew that she would go run off and tell everyone that a campus security officer was looking for sex, and he was worried that he would be fired for that. So yeah, he was basically saying that his reputation and and his job mattered more than a life. I mean, it just doesn't even make any sense. Edwin then said, quote, "I made the decision at that time to silence her, to kill her." So Edwin confessed to killing her, but still any story or claims about him thinking that Kaylee was a prostitute, like he said before about him accidentally hitting her with his car, wasn't the entire truth. Investigators were certain that Edwin had decided to kill her the moment he saw her. This was no accident. This was not him panicking. It was clear as day to them that Edwin intentionally abducted Kaylee so that he could essay her and then murder her. This is what detectives believe truly happened that night. That night, he was scheduled to get off work at 2:30 in the morning, and since Kaylee lived near campus security cars would often patrol the area to, keep things safe. Although it's unknown exactly how Kaylee got into his patrol car, authorities believe that he forced her inside. Edwin then took her phone, he took her purse, and now she was trapped. There was this plexiglass partition between the front and the back seats, and the patrol car rear doors only opened from the outside. They know that he propositioned Kaylee for sex and then insulted her when she refused and began to scream. So Edwin then opened the side door of the SUV patrol car and attacked her. He choked her into unconsciousness because he didn't want anyone to hear her, and since he was a larger man and was wearing a heavy bulletproof vest, Kaylee just couldn't fight him off no matter how hard she tried. He then drove her to the very isolated Lot B12 parking lot, which was mainly used during the day but not at night. There, Kaylee regained consciousness and tried to signal for help by reaching through the partition toward the light, horn, and siren controls. She wanted to turn the car on and just let someone know that she needed help, that she was there. She tried getting someone to hear her, but Edwin just didn't give her the chance. He choked her again, dragged her out of the car, struck her with a small, maybe medium-sized rock, and then thinking that she was dead, R-worded her, only to realize that she was still alive afterwards. He then dragged her body behind a tree, bludgeoned her to death with a larger 60, 70-pound rock, and then he just left her body there. After committing this horrific, just horrifying crime, he went back to campus. It was around 2 o'clock in the morning at this point, and although he was meant to get off at 2:30 a.m., he told his coworker who was in the office doing paperwork that he was going to go home because he was tired. So Edwin then proceeded to shower, clean his clothes from dirt, and clean the patrol car before getting into his own car, a Nissan Altima. But he didn't really go home. He actually drove back to the crime scene, the B12 lot, and wrapped Kaylee's head in a trash bag to stop the blood from spreading, and then loaded her lifeless body into the trunk of his car. He then left her body in a small ravine within Redmond City before going back home to his wife. He just got back to his house, he tucked himself into bed and just went to sleep as if he didn't just brutally murder and R-word a young woman. It's disgusting, it's just sick. The following night, Edwin grew paranoid thinking that someone would find Kaylee. So he snuck out of his home, he went back to where he left her body and then loaded her back into the trunk of his car, where he then drove Kaylee's body to another location and then threw her body off the side of a highway embankment. It's just disgusting. It's horrifying. He just treated Kaylee like she was nothing over and over again. It's infuriating. Detective McLaughlin continued to use Edwin's faith to get him to just say more, and it actually worked. Edwin started revealing more to the detectives. He told them the same thing that he had told the Gavimi family during the carjacking, that he had struggled with an urge to kill for most of his life. He admitted that there was a time where he wanted to kill the uncle of an ex-girlfriend, though he never explained why he didn't follow through with this. Over the years, he claimed that he, found ways to manage those strong urges, and said that marrying his wife Isabel had helped him, feel a sense of innocence. So those are some of the major points from his interrogation. I will have that video linked down below if you guys want to check it out. It was really hard to watch this interrogation video because Edwin just seems completely out of it. It just seems like he's just not a human being. Another major point from the interrogation is that detectives asked Edwin to write a letter to Kaylee's family. He chose to write to her father, Jamie, after remembering the news coverage showing him desperately searching for his daughter. When the detectives left him alone in the interrogation room to write the letter, he is seen on camera crying as he began to write. In the letter, he said that he had been trying to ask Kaylee for forgiveness, but didn't think that her soul could hear him because, in his words, God doesn't allow the devil to speak to angels. He wrote that if Jamie could find it in his heart, he wanted to ask Kaylee to forgive him on his behalf. He said that he would spend the rest of his life asking God for forgiveness, but doubted that God would listen. He told Jamie that he knew he loved his daughter and acknowledged that he had failed him, failed the community, and just failed everyone. He apologized for ever wearing a badge and said a man like him didn't deserve that job. He ended the letter by saying, "May Kaylee Sawyer rest in peace." Now, I'm not sure why he was asked to write the letter. I don't know if Kaylee's family requested that. I don't know if detectives thought that this would get more information out of him. I'm not really sure, but just him saying, "May Kaylee rest in peace," is disgusting. Now, while Edwin was still in the interrogation room, detectives in Oregon found Edwin's parents' car, which he had ditched outside of the Ross where he kidnapped Andrea and forced her to drive her car. Inside his car, police found 2 handwritten notes by Edwin. The first note read, quote, "The place I killed her is on the B12 lot. Run her over on College Way." The second said, "This note is to say I'm sorry for taking her life. 18700. To her dad, I'm sorry. To her mom, I'm sorry. It was an accident. She screamed and I had to silence her. My intention was not forever. To my wife, I'm sorry. I will forever love you." As for his work patrol car, chemical tests on the vehicle found blood in the trunk and in the back seat of his car. There were also 5 fingerprints on the inside of the back windows and evidence of a cleaning solution used on them, with a clump of hair found on the rear floorboard as well. As for the B12 lot where Edwin took Kaylee, police did find bloody drag marks from the lot that went up the trail to a hill and behind a boulder. The boulder had blood splattered, indicating that someone on the ground had been struck with a heavy object, at least twice. On the other hand, other officers in Oregon rushed to find Kaylee's body. They went to the location that Edwin had marked on the map that he drew, a spot across from the mailbox with the numbers 18700. Detectives also noted that 187 is the California Penal Code for homicide or murder, so they were wondering, like, did Edwin do this on purpose? Like, was he trying to play some kind of twisted mind game, or was it just a strange coincidence? He even underlined that number in the notes that detectives found in his car. Once police arrived to the spot that Edwin marked on the map, Detective TJ Nia sprinted along the guardrail that runs beside the highway, which drops down into a small canyon full of rocks and sagebrush, about 20 feet or less off the side of the highway. TJ said, quote, "As I ran west, I came across what I believed to be Miss Sawyer lying on the rocks. I thought that she was alive, and I thought that she was attempting to crawl up the face of the rocks. I checked the pulse on her neck, and I didn't have any vital signs." Authorities were unable to determine the identity of the woman, even though they knew that this was most likely Kaylee, since that's literally where Edwin said that he left her body. They still had to wait to positively ID her. So the body was taken to the Oregon State Medical Examiner's office, where they finally confirmed that this was in fact Kaylee, and her cause of death was blunt force trauma. It was also clear that she fought back hard because she actually had Edwin's DNA underneath her fingernails. When her loved ones wanted to see her body to confirm it for themselves, they were not allowed. Authorities said that Kaylee was unrecognizable and warned them to not look at her autopsy photos. Her family was forced to see their loved one in a body bag, and it's just so devastating, and I just can't even begin to think about the amount of pain that they were feeling. Like I mentioned earlier, Kaylee's mom was holding on to hope that she was still alive, that Edwin had kidnapped her and was holding her hostage, and when the news came out saying that Edwin was found with an unidentified woman, Kaylee's mom had so much hope, being like, oh my gosh, like, it's her, like, she's still alive, and then to later find out, like, no, she's been dead this entire time. It's such a nightmare. On Friday, August 5th, a memorial was held for Kaylee, where friends and family gathered to say their final goodbyes. Her family last saw her alive, happy, and they were now suddenly holding her ashes. It was just devastating and just so unfair how quickly everything turned. While Kaylee's family had to grieve the loss of their loved one, Edwin was taken back to Oregon, and prosecutors began building a case against him. They were arguing that Edwin's confession was inadmissible in court due to his rights being violated. They said that when he was first booked into Tehama County Jail in California, he said that he asked if his lawyer was almost there, but the staff thought that he was just asking a general question about the process, not actually requesting an attorney. They told him it was his right to request a lawyer during his phone calls, and that was that. By California law, anyone newly booked into jail must be allowed 3 phone calls within 3 hours. But his defense said that Edwin was in a holding cell for 5 hours without making a single call. Detectives did ask him if he wanted to make a phone call, and he even asked, "Can I call the media?" which was just insane of him to ask. The staff said that he didn't ask for another phone call after that, and his defense said that he didn't get to speak to anyone until much later, when he finally called his wife. He told her, quote, "Right now, I feel that all my rights are being violated. An attorney hasn't been appointed to me, but they read my rights to me when I got here. I keep asking for an attorney, and for me to be transferred to Oregon, that might take a while." So because of all of this, during pre-trial hearings, Judge Michael Adler ruled that Edwin's 6-hour confession video couldn't be used as evidence. Detective Beckwith said, quote, It was difficult for me because I had made some promises to her family members about the case being done the right way. When I wasn't able to honor those promises, that was very difficult. Prosecutors thought that they had a rock solid case, and Edwin's confession being inadmissible in court was just a huge setback. But it wasn't just that. Deschutes County District Attorney John Hummel was also faced with the question of whether or not to pursue the death penalty. John was personally against it. But in this case, he had to weigh his own beliefs against the law. He said, quote, Edwin Lara is the first person who I've ever prosecuted who has exhibited an urge to kill. It causes a kind of chill in your body when you hear that. You're like, wow, this is a different being that we are dealing with. This is a different person. And it kind of redoubles your resolve to do everything you can to deliver the best prosecution possible to ensure that somebody who has an urge to kill never walks the streets again. John said as an elected official, his job was to uphold every law in the state, whether he personally agreed with it or not. When you think about the power we give certain government officials, the power to take a life is the most absolute. Very few people are ever given that power. And in the end, John decided to seek the death penalty and said, if we are going to have the death penalty in Oregon, it's meant for Edwin Lara. But Edwin would actually get to escape the death penalty. 9 months before his trial was set to begin, he reached a plea agreement with prosecutors. He pled guilty to 1 count of aggravated murder and 1 count of robbery, which meant that he would receive a life sentence with no possibility of parole. In the plea, Edwin admitted to trapping Kaylee in his patrol car, where he then strangled her, then killed her by bludgeoning her head with a large rock. But he didn't admit to essaying her. On the day of his sentencing, friends and family read their impact statements while he made just no eye contact with anyone in the courtroom. Kaylee's best friend, Naomi, gave a very emotional statement, and it honestly just broke my heart. Naomi spoke about how losing Kaylee just changed everything. They had been inseparable since they were 13, and she spoke about how the memories that they had together, such as sleepovers and doing cheerleading together. She said that they could understand each other with just glances because that's how in sync they were. She said that she just couldn't imagine her future milestones, like her upcoming wedding day, without Kaylee by her side, saying, monsters really do exist. The nightmare is my life. The day we lost Kaylee, my heart was shattered into a million pieces, and I know I'll never fully be able to put it back together again because there is a piece left with her. Other members of Kaylee's family and friends called Edwin a failed campus cop and a deranged rapist, and said that they hoped that they could take Edwin to the desert where he'd be eaten alive by eagles, coyotes, and maggots. As for Kaylee's mom, Julie, she said, quote, Kaylee Anne Sawyer is my firstborn. The moment I first held her, I understood what love at first sight was. She was an amazing daughter, big sister, granddaughter, and friend. She touched so many in her short life and continues to live on in all the memories that are shared. The last person to give an impact statement was Jamie, Kaylee's dad. He said that his daughter's face was unrecognizable due to what Edwin had done to her, and he banged his hand on the podium out of rage and just made it clear that his daughter's name will never be forgotten, saying her name was Kaylee Anne Sawyer. It's just so heartbreaking hearing what everyone had to say about her, and just, oh God, it's just so sad. Now, before the judge handed down his sentence, Edwin was given a chance to speak, and he did. He stood up and he faced Kaylee's family. He closed his eyes, tilted his head slightly up, and began praying. He said, today I've seen your pain. Today I've seen your hate. I don't have much to say to you at this moment. A single prayer that someday something I would like to speak to whoever is willing to listen. God Almighty who art in heaven, although he might deny, I'll ask you to please heal the hearts, all those broken hearts of this community. I ask you, please heal the hearts of this family, of everyone who is in this place today, and may Kaylee Sawyer rest in peace. Amen. Some of Kaylee's family members walked out as he spoke because, this is just like a waste of time hearing what he had to say, because nothing he could say, no prayer, no nothing, could take back what he did. Nothing could bring Kaylee back or just take away the pain that he caused with his actions. They were just empty words by a monster who was going to be put away forever. Now, with Edwin convicted for Kaylee's murder, he had to respond to what he did to Andrea. Almost 3 years after Kaylee's murder, he was back in court facing charges for the kidnapping of Andrea. Andrea said that she almost didn't go to Edwin's sentencing, but she changed her mind, saying that she didn't want to later regret not going. In court, Andrea made it clear that she didn't want to be seen as a victim. She said, you tried to paint me as the victim and this weak person, and that's not who I am. I am a survivor. I conquered you and defeated you. I'm moving past this and moving on with my life. My mom raised me to be strong, confident, and beautiful, and part of that was taken from me. As for Edwin's defense, they said that he had recently been medically evaluated, and they tried arguing that Edwin did what he did because he had the same condition as his mother, myotonic dystrophy. According to the Muscular Dystrophy Association, the condition can affect muscles, learning, cognitive function, and behavior. But his defense's argument didn't help. Nothing, no condition or anything could ever justify what he did. In the end, in April of 2019, he received a second life sentence for both the kidnapping and carjacking charges. Andrea said that he would rot in prison for the rest of his life, and that's exactly where he belongs. As of 2020, it's reported that Andrea is doing well. She happily continues working in customer service, and she even opened up her own makeup brand called Coconut Cutie Lashes. I just truly admire her for showing up to Edwin's sentencing and just proving to him that she's strong and she won't let him control her life. I truly hope that she has been able to heal from this and that she just has a great support system around her. Andrea posted a photo on social media of her smiling with Detective Beckwith and with Detective McLaughlin and shared what happened to her in the caption. She ended the post by saying, quote, "The following year, after some therapy sessions and learning to love myself again, I began getting my strength back. Now, over 2 years later, I know who I am. I am not a victim. I am a survivor. I am a warrior. I'm here to help others by sharing my story. I'm not ashamed. I'm proud of myself. I outwitted a sociopath. I did everything that I possibly could to stay alive. God had his hand over me. I can surely say that, and for that, I'm extremely grateful. I'm just so happy that she's doing well." As for Kaylee's family, a double life sentence means that he will never be able to harm anyone else again, which is a relief. However, the most infuriating part for Kaylee's family was when they learned just how preventable her murder could have been. Her death could have been prevented if proper policies and procedures had been in place within the college campus security program. Edwin had access to police-like tools. He had a gun, handcuffs, and was given complete authority as if he were a real police officer, which he wasn't. The chief of police had questioned their procedure for years, but those warnings were ignored. Now, Kaylee's family has made it their mission to honor her and protect others so that something like this doesn't happen again. Campus security officers are supposed to keep students safe, but the community college put someone with dangerous tendencies, a sociopath, in a trusted position, and there were just no safeguards to ensure that his behavior on the job was appropriate. With better hiring practices, people like Edwin should be easier to spot. Kaylee's family actually sued the community college, saying that their daughter trusted Edwin because she thought that he was a police officer. Instead, she ended up trapped in his campus patrol car with a partition cage and doors that wouldn't open from the inside. The lawsuit said that Edwin didn't undergo any proper background or a psychological check, and that the college campus security vehicles look way too much like real police cars, which can be confusing. According to the family's attorneys, Jason and Tim, the college's public safety department had a documented history of acting outside its legal authority. The college had even commissioned an internal safety audit, which confirmed these concerns and recommended that the public safety department make reforms to officer conduct and appearance, but no meaningful changes were ever made. Campus security officers continued to wear uniforms nearly identical to police officers. They were armed with pepper spray and bulletproof vests, body cameras, and handcuffs, and they operated vehicles equipped with cages. So again, they were operating and honestly looking as if they were real police officers, which again, they weren't. The family's attorneys further highlighted significant warning signs from Edwin that the college should have recognized. He had a documented fascination with dead bodies. He displayed inappropriate nude photographs and pornographic videos to his coworkers of him having relations with the woman that he was having an affair with. And he exhibited behavior so disturbing that one female cadet refused to ride in the same vehicle as him. He even pinned one female coworker to a wall and demanded that she tell him her religious beliefs. The red flags were right there. That's why Kaylee's Law was proposed to address the gaps in how campus security operates in the state of Oregon. Kaylee's Law would require stricter background checks and evaluations for new security hires. It would make their uniforms and vehicles clearly different from police and remove their authority to make arrests, keep evidence, or investigate crimes. The goal is just to make sure that no other family goes through this. If it hadn't been Kaylee, it would have been someone else eventually, and her family is sure of that. Her dad was just so angry that the college didn't didn't immediately stop and just review its operations when all of this first happened? Because how could they know there wasn't someone else like that still working there? Why didn't they properly vet personnel and evaluate their hiring procedures? To this day, Jamie says that the college has done little to make the obvious changes that are needed. In May of 2019, Oregon Governor Kate Brown officially signed into law Kaylee's Law. The law requires that all campus security officers undergo a nationwide background check, and it allows law enforcement to share applicant information with colleges during the hiring process. It also states that security vehicles must be clearly marked as campus vehicles, that they must be equipped with GPS and interior cameras with footage stored for up to 90 days, and cannot have red or blue lights, ramming bumpers, or partition cages. Uniforms must also be clearly distinguishable from those worn by police officers. In addition to this, if a campus security officer makes an arrest, they must immediately notify local law enforcement and can only keep relevant evidence for the purpose of turning it over to the authorities. The law also prohibits campus security officers from performing stop and frisk searches. So Kaylee's Law overall aims to protect students by ensuring that campus security is thoroughly vetted, clearly identifiable, and just held to strict standards that prevent misuse of power. No other student or family should have to go through this, you guys. Like, no one else should have to be confused as to whether or not this is a campus security officer, if it's a real police officer, and, no one should abuse their power like Edwin did. In July of 2020, the lawsuit Kaylee's family filed reached a settlement. The community college agreed to pay her family $2 million. Now, no amount of money could ever bring Kaylee back or just ease their pain, but the family just hopes that her name continues to make changes needed to better protect women and just ensure that those who are meant to keep people safe are held to the highest standard. Another way to keep Kaylee's name alive is through an organization that her family made in her honor called KK's Readers. The program coordinates with the nonprofit organization Neighbor Impact and donates Kaylee's favorite Dr. Seuss book, Oh, the Places You'll Go, to children in local Neighbor Impact free Head Start preschool classrooms throughout Central Oregon. I just think that's so amazing. Sharing Kaylee's favorite book with upcoming students is just such a beautiful way to keep her name alive and just help the community. In addition to this, a stone was made in Kaylee's memory at the family's local library, and it's engraved with "Reading Together, Kaylee Anne and Grandma Sharon." Since again, Kaylee just loved going to the library with her grandma, and this was just such a beautiful thing that her and her grandma did together, and I thought that was a really nice tribute to her. Her grandma further honors that by leaving flowers on it, always keeping Kaylee's spirit alive. Her loved ones have been trying their best to heal and just make something meaningful out of this tragedy. But in 2022, Kaylee's family suffered yet another blow. A 30-year-old man named John Sue Vieira randomly broke in and stole items from Kaylee's mom's storage unit. Among those items was a green glass heart holding some of Kaylee's ashes. John, along with his accomplice, Emily, tossed the heart necklace, Julie's wedding ring, and a Stay Kaylee Strong necklace in a dumpster behind a Motel 6, assuming that these things were just worthless. The purse that they came from also held $30,000 in jewelry, 2 firearms, and a hard drive containing all files from Kaylee's murder case, which John just destroyed for the magnets. Julie was actually going to give the drive back in the next few days, but now it was gone. These random people just broke in and just stole some of Kaylee's ashes and then stole all of her case files. This was just so hard for Kaylee's family, to have their loved one murdered and dumped as if she was nothing, not once, but twice, then to know that 2 thieves dumped her again a 3rd time. It's just so infuriating. But Julie says that although a piece of her daughter was inside that stolen necklace, Kaylee will just forever be in her heart no matter what. For the theft, John was sentenced to 40 months in prison, and Emily was sentenced to 10 days and got probation. Now, as for Edwin's wife, Isabel, she filed for divorce and she actually quit her officer training, wanting to just start fresh and just move somewhere else and just move on with her life. But she faced criticism, specifically for not mentioning that Edwin had family nearby when she first reported Edwin to the police, because again, she only told them that he had relatives in Los Angeles, thinking that he was heading there. As I mentioned earlier, if she had mentioned that his parents' house was literally just 5 minutes away, authorities believe that they could have known the model of the car that he took and just might have tracked him down before his crime spree, before he kidnapped Andrea, before he shot Jack, before he kidnapped Nima and his family. There was also public criticism claiming that she waited way too long to report Edwin. It's been reported that she waited hours to go to the police station, but District Attorney John Hummel said, quote, "From when Edwin left until when she went to the police station, there's less than an hour, I think 30 minutes or so." So they're saying that Isabel arrived at 11:52 a.m. to the police station while Edwin allegedly left the home at around 11:30 in the morning. District Attorney John Hummel says, quote, "Nobody knows how they will react if the love of their life comes home and says, 'I've done the unthinkable.' The thought that people can Monday morning quarterback and say, 'I immediately would have handcuffed that man and raced to the police station,' or 'I would have immediately called 911. That's foolish because you haven't been in that situation." That said, John acknowledged that Isabel did leave out key details when she spoke to the police, but clarified that she was never charged with anything, stating, "I'm aware of the allegations against Isabel. We investigated them and determined no crime had been committed." Kaylee's mom, Julie, however, has publicly expressed the anger that she feels towards Isabel. Julie says that she has read the transcripts of the calls between Isabel and Edwin from jail, as well as saw his visitor's log from jail, and said, quote, "Make no mistake, she has blood on her hands." On a Facebook post from 2020, Julie shared a screenshot of Isabel actually liking one of her photos about going through old memories. Julie was shocked to see that notification, writing, "For those of you who do not know, this is the wife of the defendant. She was a City of Bend police officer and is his accomplice in all the crimes he committed after Kaylee." So yeah, Isabel has faced major criticism from a lot of people, while also, dealing with a lot of praise for turning in her husband, something many have said not everyone would do. I just thought that was really important to include. Now, I wanted to end this video with a statement from Kaylee's father, Jamie, which just absolutely broke my heart. It reads, quote, "This event ripped through thousands of people's lives. It left my wife and me in such a state of despair, anger, and anxiety that we couldn't leave the house or workplace without having a panic attack for months. Every holiday, every birthday is a depressing reminder of who's missing and what we have to live without the rest of our lives. The hope and joy that I had in my daughter is now missing and has left a hole in me that I have to walk around every day with fear of falling in. The pain is so unbearable at times it still takes my breath away. This murder has fractured the relationships with our whole family and left us feeling very alone. This has left me feeling inadequate to be the best dad to my boys and husband to my wife. I feel there's so much less of me. And what's broken can't be fixed." Kaylee just had a full life ahead of her, and Edwin just took everything away from her. He is an evil man, and thankfully he will be spending the rest of his life in prison, unable to harm another woman or family again. Kaylee was walking in her neighborhood, near a college campus where she was supposed to be protected. She would still be here with us today, wakeboarding, writing poetry, reading, drawing, taking photographs, and just bringing joy to all of her family and friendships. It's just not fair that she isn't here with us today, and I just hope that her soul is at peace and that her family continues to heal. My deepest condolences go out to Kaylee's family, and I'm just so sorry that this happened to this beautiful soul. Just wow, everything that Edwin did is just truly horrifying. It's a nightmare what he put so many people through. Starting from Kaylee, from her friends, from her family, to Andrea, to shooting Jack at the hotel, to abducting those two boys and their grandmother. I mean, it's just insane and disturbing what he did, and it's just unfair. Again, Kaylee should still be here today. Let me know what you guys think about this down below, and just thank you guys so much for being here and for taking the time out of your day to listen to what happened to Kaylee and for helping me keep her name alive. If you guys haven't watched my last video, I talk about the case of Miguel Cortez Miranda, a scientist, women's and animal rights activist from Mexico who was actually a serial killer. Also, if you guys ever need a break from true crime, I do have a second channel where we talk about fictional mystery and thriller movies, so I will have that link down below if you guys want to check it out. The next movie that I'm covering on that channel is Red Eye, which stars Cillian Murphy and Rachel McAdams. It is just an insane movie. So yeah, if you guys are ever looking for a break, just head over there. Thank you guys again so much for being here, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye, familia.